Hey yo, what's good guys? Today I'm going to be ranking every single mythic in Fire Emblem Heroes for use in Aether Raids. My goal with this video is to help you decide who to invest orbs into in the long term, so all sample builds will be a max investment. Just as a general note, offense mythics are generally more important than defense ones because they directly increase your maximum score in Aether Raids. Of those, supportive ones are usually better, so the units on your team doing most of the combat can take advantage of the stat boost that all mythics provide. With that out of the way, let's start off with Crying Emoji tier, where we have Sothus. On Aether Raid's defense, she serves little to no purpose other than being a ball of stats that can take advantage of infantry support skills, and there are so many options on this list that are way better at doing that and come with some other kind of gimmick. You may be looking at this sample build and wondering what lunatic would put this much investment into Sothus, and the answer is me. This is a screenshot of my Sothus. With that out of the way, let's move on to the D tier. All of these units were optimized for combat and came out quite a while ago, leaving them in a pretty bad spot nowadays. Yun has a somewhat high attack and res stat with a guaranteed follow-up, but that's just not enough nowadays to do a significant amount of damage to pretty much anything. But take a look at this, her C skill inflicts -5 on one of your opponent's stats. Yeah, that's kinda mid too. Heck isn't really as good as she is mildly annoying. She gets the miracle effect against physical units, which you should be able to play around pretty easily, and it's probably the worst unique skill on this entire list, just giving her +4 to all stats. Lif is really similar to Sothus, but at least has some potential to do damage in player phase, having a guaranteed follow-up, a unique special, and the heavy blade effect in his B skill. Freyja is the definition of an outdated combat-optimized mythic. Her weapon has distant counter and dodge, and her B skill gives her some stats and allows her to steal her foe's bonuses. Her attack and speed are alright, but her bulk is pretty bad for what's meant to be a tanky unit, meaning she won't survive that much stuff at all. She also has no support skills to speak of. At least she's pretty hot. Altina is in theory even worse than Freyja, but actually has an okay niche in being able to be used as a solid Gale Force unit, with a unique brave weapon and high attack stat. That's literally it, but it's something. Naga is terrible at nearly everything, but actually has some support finally. She can make her allies effective against dragons, which is actually pretty useful since there's a lot of really bulky near and far safe dragons that Naga can help your team beat. And now we have the C tier, which again consists of units optimized for combat, but either are more recent or have aged better than the rest. Thracier has a really solid stat spread with a weapon and B skill that lends really well for doing a bit of damage and taking a hit back. She can also take advantage of some really good infantry-exclusive offensive or supportive skills. If Lif is better than Sothus because he can kill stuff, Thracier is better than Lif because she is ranged. Speaking of ranged units that can kill stuff, we have Bremimond, who actually has a pretty good C skill that neutralizes all the support his foe is getting from other units. He also has a guaranteed follow-up attack and can do a decent chunk of damage to some enemy tanks. Ullr has insane player phase potential, but I really don't see how she's meant to fit in on an Aether Raids offense team. I really don't. I guess she can be used for hit and run strategies or it can finish off some tanky armor at the end of the match, but a lot of other units can do that better, and I feel like that slot can be used for something else. I don't know, maybe I'm crazy, be sure to yell at me at the comments if I'm wrong. Saros is here because she is one of the only anima mythics that allow you to use a 7th unit on your defense team, and 7 units is better than 6. She is pretty good on player phase and has a nice bulk, making her tough to kill sometimes. Oder is the better version of Saros and the dark version of Phoenix Master 1, who follows me on Twitter. Literally everything I said about Saros applies here as well. Good on player phase, tough to kill, except he's on a horse. And he also has Brutal Shell, which is actually pretty good. That's it for C tier, now we're going to move on to B. These units provide great support and some are pretty good at combat too. Dagger having the Pathfinder effect is low-key pretty solid. Movement is super important in Aether Raid's offense, and she opens up a bunch of opportunities when both initiating against a team and breaking pots. Not only that, but she's pretty well suited for initiating a Gale Force strategy, since she has no follow-up and can pretty reliably attack into a frontline unit and get below 50% HP. Air was the first unit to get a Mythic remix, and it made her really good. Sparkling Boost was already good, but now it restores 20 HP to an ally instead of 10, and it also gives all allies 5 resistance during combat. This is reason enough to bring her in my opinion, as it makes all her units just straight up better. Her refined weapon makes her pretty good at combat to boot. Funnily enough, you can opt to use a build that uses her unrefined weapon that makes her take recoil damage, which you can stack to get her to below 50% HP and allow your allies to Wings of Mercy and Gale Force. Ashe, like Dagger, opens up so many movement options with her C skill, making opening and closing matches that much easier. Ashe can't reliably Gale Force like Dagger can, but can easily kill tanky units while closing matches on enemy phase. Ashera gives your allies the Null Panic effect, which is really good utility. Visible buffs are normally risky to use because of the panic effect, but Ashera means you can use them with no downside. On top of that, she gains a bonus to her attack proportional to the buffs on allies around her, making her hit harder than your friend group going to see minions Rise of Gru in suits. An ally with the bonus doubler seal can take great advantage of Ashera's buffs, and if you aren't using any infantries, give Ashera bonus doubler, she buffs herself too. Finishing off B tier are both Triandra and Mirabilis, who are dancers, that's all there is to say. They refresh your units on Aether Raids defense, and that is very good. For a defense mythic to be higher than this, they must have something more to offer than literally any other unit can, since odds are you're using a dancer on your defense team regardless. Oh no, but if you don't subscribe in the next 10 seconds before we get into this next tier, then you're gonna... Man, I don't know, I got nothing. I'm all out of ideas for these subscribe to Connor's Act, but I mean, if you're not already subscribed, just... it would really make my day if you subscribed, you know. With that being said, let's move on to the A tier. Having these units should make your Aether Raids experience significantly easier. Regan has Canto 3, meaning she can use up all of her movement, kill something, and move back to where she started. If you had Canto 3, you could go outside, touch grass, and go back to where you started in your crusty dank basement surrounded by waifu pillows and empty cups. Regan also has a great special in Say Oh Shell, meaning ideally she picks off a weak unit and cantos back to safety. Generally, enemy phase mythics aren't too great since they don't get the stab boost from other mythics, but Asker is really good despite that. He has great bulk with a lot of true damage reduction, and he can even hit back with straight up true damage. And perhaps his combat ability will age poorly, but that's okay, he can support too, giving his allies -1 special cooldown, making him great for Gale Force teams. Hey, what's this guy's name again? Do you guys remember? Anyone? Dude, my nuts fit in your mouth! Duma's Upheaval is really, really cool. It destroys your opponent's nearest offense building and deals 10 damage to all foes. The building it destroys can be something that would otherwise screw up your team, like a Bolt Tower or Panic Manor, and that 10 damage can sometimes be the difference between your unit getting or missing a kill. His weapon itself also makes him really bulky, so much so that if you don't like Upheaval, he can do great as a save armor. Morbius has an ability where he goes, "It's Morbin time!" and then your team can't take damage from external sources like Savage Blow and Bolt Tower. This can actually be really nice in that it completely prevents your opponent from using some strategies that rely on that type of damage. Morbius himself also has like 1 more billion% damage reduction and can be really hard to kill. This seems to be a hot take from what I've seen, but I think Not is slightly better than Morbius. The Pathfinder effect on Aether Raid's defense is extraordinarily good, giving the rest of your team more range to oppress anybody attacking into you. Morbius is good for teams with a low threat range, and Not increases your team's threat range. Both are good, but I like Not more, that's just me. Finishing A tier is Thor, who makes Gale Force strategies literally baby easy mode. This is huge because Gale Force is easily one of the most consistent strategies that you can use in Aether Raid's offense. With a guaranteed follow-up, slaying effect, and heavy blade effect, she can attack into anyone, and Gale Force will activate most of the time. With the build I have on screen with double recoil, after initiating 2 combats, she'll be below 50% HP, and then her allies can use Wings of Mercy to teleport in. And then those allies don't even have to be using a heavy blade effect because Thor herself provides it to them. She even has armor effectiveness to easily take out any pesky bulky units you may struggle with. She was for sure built for Gale Force and it shows. Now finally, the moment we've all been waiting for is the S tier. All these units will make any strategy you use in Aether Raids offense ridiculously easier to pull off. First is Mila, who inflicts isolation on an enemy, preventing them from using assist skills. This means that that enemy gets no dance, no reposition, no heal, no nothing. This completely disables a lot of common threatening defense traps, and disabling a dancer just in general can prevent so much jank from occurring and ruining your whole day. Mila also just gives you another turn straight up, because she's just built different like that. And then above Mila, who else could it be but Plumeria and also Peony. I have Peony higher than Plumeria because you get one for free. Having a unit that can give your allies another action is something you'll pretty much always want for Aether Raid's offense. They can help enemy phase teams clean up after the first round of combat, and help player phase teams by giving your strongest unit another action. For an offense mythic to be above Plumeria and Peony, they have to offer something more than literally any other unit in the game can, since chances are you're going to want a dancer on your team anyway. And there is one unit so insane that I gave them their own tier. In Supreme Overlord tier, who else could it be but Elamine? First off, she gives 30% damage reduction to allies within 2 spaces. Their tanking strategies are already way more consistent. Then she inflicts the false start effect on enemies, which disables any skills that trigger at the start of the turn. There are simply too many units and skills that false start completely disables that it would take too long to list them. So instead of listing them, I wrote a haiku. Sigurd Alm Bride's Pulse. Hardy Fighter Morbius. Menace Huge Honkers. Oh, and I almost forgot. An S+++++ tier is your favorite unit. If you don't care about the meta and just want to use your favorites, I will always advocate for you to do so. For me, Sothus is S++++ tier. See, look, here's mine, remember? But that's it for the tier list. Thank you guys all so much for watching.